Roll for random encounter.
Okay, and welcome to another episode of the Random Encounters Show. I'm here today with Debora Kerr.
Hi, everybody.
Everybody give her a big welcome to the show. We've got another Flying Buffalo Incorporated talent with us today.
Well, Flying Buffalo was many, many, many years ago, but I still have some stories, so hopefully they won't be too weird.
Oh, no, nothing's too weird for this show, I promise. But I'm so happy to finally have you on because we've been emailing back and forth for weeks now, and it's like, is it ever going to
Yes,
happen? Is it
it
ever
was
going to happen?
the show that was months in the making.
That's right. And I just talking through email, I was like, oh, we got so much to talk about. I can't wait to get her on. So finally, I was afraid it wouldn't happen, but finally we're here. But
Well, I am
oh, go ahead.
okay. I was just going to say I'm really glad to be here, and I want to say hi to all your viewers, and I want to encourage them to subscribe to your channel, follow your videos. I've been watching them all, and they are all great. So you've got a good thing going, Death Stalker.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. Nobody's complimented me before on the show. Of course, we haven't been around long enough, but so you're the first. You're the first.
All right.
But, yeah, give everybody a little introduction to yourself because over the years you've done a whole lot in the gaming industry from many, many sides.
Well, I've always been interested in writing from when I was first published in a newspaper when I was 8 years old, up through my college days, which encompassed my Flying Buffalo experience. And after that, I got into comics with my own production company and did some other gaming work as a freelancer for Flying Buffalo. And that segued into projects with other creative types, the City of the Gods novels, and now that's branching out into the City of the Gods games. And I've even done some voice acting for podcasts and writing some scripts for podcasts. So I have my fingers in all sorts of creative endeavors.
No wonder it's hard to get you on. You're quite busy. That's amazing. Now, when did you get involved with Flying Buffalo? I know I like to have a starting point, and Flying Buffalo seems to be a good one because we had your friend Steve on, and it sounds like you guys have worked together a long time.
We have, Steve is actually the person who got me hired at Flying Buffalo. I was at Arizona State University and I was finishing up my last year there. And I was working various different part-time jobs. You know how it is in college, where you're just scrambling to get a buck however you can in between your classes. And a mutual friend of ours, I believe, was working in the Flying Buffalo store at the time. And he heard that the play-by-mail section of the company needed to hire somebody to do paperwork and bookkeeping and that kind of stuff. So Steve came out and we met each other and sort of hit it off, and he recommended me to Rick Loomis. And I ended up getting hired not in the game production area, but in the area that opened all the mail for the people sending in their play-by-mail turns and doing some other sort of clerical paperwork for the sales department in the store. So I did that for a while, and eventually there just really wasn't enough work to keep me busy. So they said, well, why don't you go over to productions and see if there's something they can teach you to do. And at that point, I started working with Mike Stackpole and Liz Danforth and Steve, of course, and Jason Sato, our trusty typesetter. And I started helping to put together Sorcerer's Apprentice magazine. And that was probably my first Flying Buffalo project.
Excellent. And for our younger viewers who may not be aware of what play-by-mail games is, I believe Flying Buffalo, were they the first to start that trend? I know Rick had the famous computer, the what was it? I think it was an IBM something. It had like
Yeah, I don't remember what they called that beast, but I believe they were one of the first, if not the first, play-by-mail company.
If I'm remembering correctly, they were the first. I think it was just due to that computer, but I know for definitely during the early 80s, they were the most prolific with the play-by-mail games.
Yeah, and their two biggest games were Star Web and Heroic Fantasy. And I loved playing Heroic Fantasy. I had a real good time. I put in a lot of turns in that game.
Yeah, and for the younger viewers, what play-by-mail was is that it was a full role-playing game, and it was sort of like a prototype MMO. That's generally how I got it. And you may be teamed up with other people, or you may be on your own, but you're adventuring in this overworld campaign, and you may meet other character players and different things. But each turn that you take, you submit it to, at that time, Flying Buffalo. You got to open it up and read what kind of crazy stuff people were doing in the game, probably. And then they would plug it into the computer and send you back the results of your turn, and then you would continue onwards.
Can you imagine how patient we had to be back in the dark ages to wait for our game turn to come back?
Oh, sure, especially in snail mail. It was just a stamped mail. Wasn't any express going on. But yeah, I never actually got involved with any of the play-by-mail stuff. But at the time, I was a little bit too young. But I would see it in like Dragon magazine and different things like that, and it was like, oh, well, I want to try this. I want to do it.
Nice. Yeah, and speaking of the magazine, what my job was to take the typeset words for all the stories, heat up the old wax roller, push that wax onto the cardboard, and then paste the type down. So it was really old school production and getting it all ready to go to the printer.
Yeah, that's amazing though, that they were still using the wax roller and everything then. But
Yeah.
and the Sorcerer Apprentice, if they've missed out on, I call it SA for short, but it was a gaming magazine. It never had the wide publicity that like Dragon magazine or the SPI magazines and stuff had, but it has some of the best fiction in a magazine that I have ever read, just hands down.
It had fantastic fiction by well-known authors and all sorts of great gaming material, little scenarios you could run, plus just ads for anything you would want to buy at the time. It was a really useful publication, not only entertaining.
Right. It's and go, but PDFs are floating around if people wanted to check that out. And I believe, well, I don't know, with the FBI was, they were bought out by this WebSphere company. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know some of the issues were on drive-through for a while. I'm not sure if they've kept them up or not, but if you can get a hold of them, they're definitely fun to go back and read, check out the stories, and check out the gaming scene of the early 80s. I love it. But also wanted to ask, university, what were you going to university for?
Oh, I was finishing up my bachelor's in business and computer information systems at ASU.
Oh, you were a natural fit then for what they needed.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And before working at Flying Buffalo, were you involved in any type of hobby gaming, tabletop games like role-playing games, war gaming, or anything? No,
not at all. Not at all. That was my introduction to that whole scene, really. I mean, I'd heard of D&D and I knew some people that had played it, but I wasn't really into the gaming until I was working there. And the fun thing was, after a while, in addition to helping put the magazine together, I worked on all sorts of other projects, including the nuclear escalation cards. I remember pasting those up. And I got to read the slush pile, so to speak, because a lot of writers would send in their proposals for solos or adventures to see if Flying Buffalo would want to publish them. And Mike and Liz and Rick, they didn't really have time to read all this stuff, so they would put it on my desk and I'd get to read, and any of the ones that I thought were cool or maybe were promising but could use some work, then I got to sort of contact all those writers and talk to them and see if we could make their visions come true as well.
Wow. Okay, so Flying Buffalo, the more people I speak to that were involved, the more and more I find out that all the versatility of what Flying Buffalo was doing at the time, that they were really not just a gaming company, but you guys were looking at fiction, you were doing the magazines, you were doing play-by-mail. So it's interesting to get the whole scope. And I never met Rick Loomis, but I got to speak to him online before he passed in 2017, was it? I think so. And but I never really realized what an amazing eye for talent he had. When you look at the Flying Buffalo, employee list, and to see how everybody would branch out and do their own thing over the years, he had a really, really good eye for talent.
He did. And he was just such a personable guy too. He could talk to anybody at a convention, he was never standoffish, and he was always willing to give you a chance if you wanted to work and try to do something. So that's something that we all really appreciated about Rick.
Yeah, and it was just talking to him a few years there before he passed away. I just got the impression that he was an amazing guy and would have probably just been outstanding to work for. So it's fun. It's fun to look back though, and because we're talking the Phoenix area basically,
Yes. Mhm.
So it's amazing that just in that area he was able to pull together the talent that he did to make Flying Buffalo what it
That's
was.
true. That's true. It's not like he was in, LA Central where all the creative types congregate. He was kind of just out in his little desert land there.
And that probably helped it out because Flying Buffalo, their games and their products, their art styles, everything about it, it was different enough to make it unique.
Mhm, mhm.
Where a lot of other companies, they would see what TSR at the time was doing, or Avalon Hill, or these other bigger companies, and they would try to basically reproduce the same type of material to get into the market. But
Right.
Flying Buffalo, on the other hand, they were in the market, but they were taking divergent paths away from what the mainstream wanted. And basically, in my opinion, it basically started like a cult following. If you get into any of like the social media groups and stuff, the people that love tunnels and trolls or mercenary spies and private eyes, these people, I mean, they'll die over these games. They are all the way to the core fans of these games, and you don't really see that a lot with games nowadays, hardly. But they're hanging on to it.
Yeah, it really is amazing. It's not just nostalgia. They really appreciate the games for what they are.
Right, I do too. I simply love mercenary spies and private eyes. I love tunnels and trolls, and they've kept their identity through the years. They've had different editions, okay, but all the editions are compatible with each other because they've
Mhm.
kept their core mechanics and core identity through the years, and it's so different than tunnels. I mean, than D&D or what's another big one, RuneQuest and stuff like that. That you only get the feeling of playing that game from playing that game. You're not going to get it from anywhere else.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
And
And
plus,
in fact, after I worked at Flying Buffalo, that basically was my door into all the other wonderful tabletop games, which I never would have discovered if I hadn't met all these gamers while I was working there.
yeah, that brings up a good topic. Tell us some of your nowadays, or you can go back into the past and give us a list. But what are some of your favorite tabletop games of all time?
Oh, favorites of all time. That is a good
And
question.
that's everything from classic games like cards and dominoes to
Mhm.
role playing games and such. So let's hear the list.
The old Illuminati game was one of my favorites because it had the cheaters rules. It was legal in that game to cheat, to
Yeah,
steal people's pieces off the table when they weren't looking. I mean, it was just the best beer and pretzels game ever.
yeah,
I've always loved any type of game where you're building something like Settlers of Catan or some of the Euro Rails games where you're building railroads.
sure, like Ticket to Ride or Five
Yeah,
Nights.
Ticket to Ride, all the different,
There's 1,000 train games.
yeah, there's 1,000 train games, and a lot of them are just by date, 1858, that type of thing. As even actually played a lot of Magic the Gathering when it was first out and made a
Sure.
fortune selling all my beta cards a few years later.
You didn't have any of those Liz Danforth cards, did you?
I do. I have a collection of autographed Liz Danforth
We're
cards
trying to get her
still.
on the show, so maybe she won't be too mad. I'm kidding.
Oh, I hope she comes on. I would love to see an interview with Liz. I
Yeah, I
haven't
hope
seen
she
her for
does
a long
too.
time. I used to run into Liz and Mike occasionally at conventions over the years, but haven't seen either for quite a while.
Well, we've had 2 years of pandemic going on, so you can't really count
Yes,
2 years out of this.
I know.
It's been
Ruined
horrible.
everything,
Yeah, it taught us how to get along with ourselves at least.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I learned to quit shaving and doing haircuts and stuff. So.
Yeah, my hair was this long. In March of 2020, when all this started, my hair was this long, and now I just decided I wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah, it looks good. But yes, so Settlers of Catan, Magic the Gathering. A lot of
Mhm.
people may not realize, but Catan's been around since the early 90s. I'm not sure when it hit America, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but my peak tabletop gaming was like between 1994 and 1999. We had a really good group of gamers there in Phoenix, and almost every Friday night we met to play some type of board game. But then in 1999, my husband and I moved to Virginia, and we haven't really put together a gaming group since then. So kind of miss
Well,
those days.
I live very rurally here in South Alabama.
Mm.
I mean, we're very rural. I think in like 100 square miles, there's maybe 50 people, 60 people. So it's
Oh, I'd
so I
love
always
that.
I've always dreamed of putting together a game group, but here it's not really feasible. So
Mm,
I'm a solitaire player primarily anyway, so I guess I can't complain too much.
that's true. I do love solo gaming.
Oh, so yeah, stick around if you like the videos because I'm going to do my best as soon as we catch up on some other projects to break into solo gaming of how to do it with just about any game. So,
Oh, nice.
and speaking of solo games, I've got something here with your name on it.
Oh, City Book 7. You know, it's
Yeah, the
funny.
city. Yeah,
I
this
was in the attic yesterday and I found all my 3.5-inch floppy disks with the old City Book 7 files on them.
wow, excellent. Yeah, I love the City Book series, especially for solo play, because it drops. You can drop this basically these towns or cities or scenarios wherever you want to in your world, and they're sandboxy. You know, this isn't a pre-written
Exactly.
adventure. This isn't a campaign module. Basically, it's more of a setting module to me, and you can use it how you want. But it's
Hmm, hmm.
fantastic that hey, I need a quick city to throw here. There you go. But yeah, so when I mean not Ken, when Steve started talking to me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to contact Deborah and see if she wants to come on," I was like, "Yes, please do," because I recognized your name immediately just from using the city books over the years.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, that was a fun project. I was basically editor, art director on that. I had to find people to write the stories and do the artwork. So that was a job and a half, but I really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, I imagine so. I just pop it open. I'm looking at the illustrators and the authors, and it looks at least like a dozen authors there. And
Yeah, and I tried to get a lot of different styles of art in that book too,
right, and you
just
did
to give.
it's a fantastic layout and a fantastic job, if you ask me. I mean, I love these books anyway, so I'm biased. But yeah, I know one thing from editing. Because I'm not in the publishing world, but I'm an author and I write. But I couldn't imagine having to edit together, you know, over a dozen authors, you know, into a single cohesive document. That's sort of mind-boggling to me. But
Well, it's nice that the city books have those scenarios that sort of cross play into each other where, you know, say one author writes something about, you know, the guards on the bridge and another author writes something about the shady guy in the store that's under the bridge. The scenarios can help you connect um, things that don't really seem to have any relationship to each other at first. So it's kind of fun.
yeah, I've always loved these books. And why don't we go ahead and tell people about a large work of yours, which is City of
Oh,
the Gods and all the
speaking of
associated projects.
cities,
Yeah.
yeah, City of the Gods is a whole universe of products that Steve Crompton and I have been working on since 2010. That all began because he had to do a project for a graphic design course he was taking, and he did this beautiful City of the Gods chapbook, which was a gorgeous little pamphlet that had fold out maps and the first chapter that we ever wrote together about this world that all the gods of mythology had withdrawn to when the people on earth stopped believing in them. And that turned out so nice that we decided, you know what, we need to do something with this idea. And oddly enough, the first thing we thought we might do with City of the Gods was to make it into an MMORPG. But neither of us really had the coding experience or the ability to put together a team to do something like that. So then we decided, well, let's do comics. And we came up with the Pantheon comics, which basically played off of that same idea. And then later it turned into novels and short story collections and soon to be a video game type of experience that I'm working on.
Yeah,
So
and you
we've just
got
had a ton of fun with that idea.
yeah, a good idea, you know, nature of is a vacuum, so a good idea has nowhere to go but forward. And
Mhm.
yeah, don't forget you also have the are they cataclysm? I can't remember how they did it, but you produce modules for games sort of for all
Oh, yes.
RPGs
Mhm.
with the setting.
Yeah,
So
those were in the Catalyst system.
yeah, the catalyst, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And we did the City of the Gods map pack, which has, again, a beautiful map of our novel world and all sorts of little cards in it about characters and scenarios. And it's great for anybody that wants to incorporate our City of the Gods world into any kind of game system they're running.
Oh yeah, and I will anybody that's interested into the City of Gods, because I'm sure we can talk about this forever, but while I'm remembering it, I'm going to put a link down for Deborah's website you can go there and get a view of all the products and projects and different things, and you have the ability to check out what she's got going on, in the future as well.
Yeah, that's right. That page will send you any links where you can check out past publications on Amazon, Drive-Through Comics, Drive-Through RPG. It'll get you wherever you want to go.
Yeah, so how did you end up in the comics? Was that something Steve convinced you of, or was that your own idea? Maybe you convinced Steve of getting in it. I don't know.
It's hard to really remember how that started. I think Steve just really wanted to do a spin-off of some of the characters that he had in his Demi the Demoness books.
Sure.
And we sort of built a mythological world and took some plot threads from that and put them into more of a general audience type comic book. And some of the stuff, I would like to actually go back and revisit some of the plot threads we have had in the early Pantheon, because there was some stuff going on Earth that we haven't talked about at all since we moved everything into the mythological dimension of mythology. So it'll be fun to go back and sort of see what's going on with those mere mortals that were involved at the very beginning.
Sure, and I've went through some of the comics over the years. So I've got some from Steve, but I know at one point some of the characters were in hell. I think Sekhmet had turned into Kit Ra.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of different dimensions going on with City of the Gods.
It's almost a multiverse.
Right. Well, look out, Marvel. Everybody's tired of the Marvel. Let's get a new multiverse going on.
Yeah, I'm a little burnt out on superheroes myself. I think I quit after, I don't know, Captain America. I think after that movie, I was kind of done.
I never really got into it. Superheroes and the Marvel comics, they were okay, but I just never got into that. Fantasy and Westerns, now sci-fi. The older I get, the more I like sci-fi for whatever reason. But it was, especially when I was a kid, it was fantasy, heroic adventure fantasy and good Westerns.
That's cool. Yeah, I read a lot of like epic fantasy when I was younger. And then when I was a real little kid, I remember reading like Fantastic Four comics, but that was really the only superhero stuff I ever read.
Yeah, so it's amazing now though how it's taken off. Poor Stan Lee. I wish he was still around to really see how
everyone
far
misses Stan.
Yeah, he was brilliant, but just for whatever reason that was never my scene. But it is what it is. But back to it. You gave me a heartbreaking news story the other day I wanted to talk about here, because we do cover sort of the retro computer console scene. You told me you had sold a box full of Atari ST discs, and I'm like, Atari ST, why would you ever sell anything Atari ST, one of the greatest 16-bit computers ever made?
Yeah, it gets to the point, when you're looking around your house and you just think there's too much stuff in this house. And we had held on to all our Atari 512 STs and 1040 STs and all the software and monitors and mice and data hard drives. And we just said, you know what, we're not touching this. It's sitting in the attic. It's just rotting away. Let's make it available to somebody who wants it and who will appreciate it. So slowly but surely, we've been putting all this stuff up on eBay. I've sold, just probably 100 games. And now I'm down to the boring software. This week, I'll be listing things like Atari First Word and Mark Williams C++ for the Atari logo and all the old,
well, there's
utilitarian stuff.
There's so many people in the homebrew scene now that a lot of that software that wasn't necessarily gaming related, but related to programming and graphics and stuff, it sells pretty quickly to the people who are developing games.
It always surprises me what gets sold. And this week too, I've been selling a lot of old anime VHS, which amazes me that there's any market for VHS. But I'm getting
I still collect VHS.
$20 a pop on these guys. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I collect VHS. Of course, I've been looking for an Atari ST forever. I just don't want to pay shipping on it from ordering it.
See, that's the thing. I don't know what I'm going to do about. I can see selling like the keyboard and the mice, and it's like,
sure. Yeah, but when it comes to selling the computer itself and the monitors.
And the monitors are like a giant boat anchor.
Yeah, so that was why I was like, I'll find one eventually locally. But I try to do all my collecting locally because the market
is so
crazy on everything. It's especially gaming wise, you know, with the retro gaming scene over the last decade or so really breaking out and people going back to the roots of gaming. I've
Yes.
I used to go around yard sales and stuff and pick up, you know, 16-bit, 8-bit consoles and different things like that. You could buy this stuff for, you know, a whole box for $10. You want it, you got it. You know what I mean? And now
Yeah.
you've got games fetching just thousands and thousands of dollars a piece and different things like that. It's more of an investor's market now, and I'm just a game player. I like playing this old stuff. I'm not trying to make a investment here.
Definitely.
And the same with old board games too. They're getting a little bit ridiculous. So
Yeah, just today I sold a copy of Sirocco, the Desert Raiders game.
excellent. I'm not familiar with that one. So,
It's a nice 2-player game from, I think it was a Task Force Games, I think, put that out.
I love Task Force games now. They've put out some brilliant. Well, they did put out some brilliant games until they went under. One of my favorite being King's Bounty. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that one? Then it got the conversion over to computer. I think it was their only game to ever get a conversion over off the table to screen, but that one was a good one. But hey, you're the first person I talked to that knows anything about Task Force games in a while. I love their stuff. So speaking on City of Gods, before we get too far off topic, you sent a video over here, so we're gonna do a share, and you can guide us through that. So
okay, let me just give you a quick intro, and then you can just play it.
sure.
What I am working on is a City of the Gods interactive experience over on the Core Games platform. And if you're not familiar with Core Games, it's a really fantastic free place where you can go play tons of games, but also build your own games. And you need a little bit of coding knowledge, but there are so many tutorials there to help you build your own worlds. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to build the City of the Gods worlds here and make a product where people can come in, run around the city. Even if they haven't read any of the books, they can come in, they can have some fun looking for hidden items and just learn a little bit about the City of the Gods worlds. So with that, I will go ahead and let Deathstalker fire up a video for us.
We're back.
Yeah, I just got it in. Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. What you just saw in that video is very much alpha footage. I also only put scenes in that didn't spoil any of the secrets, and I still have a lot of building to do. So there's going to be 2 or 3 entirely new districts that you did not even get a peek at there before this gets released.
Well, I think it's amazing. It's more amazing when it's just you. You know, when I see a project like that, I'm thinking somebody's on art, somebody's doing the 3D modeling, somebody's doing the programming, somebody's, you know, is doing audio, somebody's doing music, you know, so hey.
Well, that is what's so fantastic about the core system, because they already have the 3D models built for you. So you can just go in like Lego blocks and put together whatever you need. And you don't need to know how to make that 3D model. You just need to figure out how to plop it into your scene. So I would encourage anybody just to go check it out and have some fun and build some stuff. If I can do it, you can do it.
Wow, yeah, it's I'm so far removed from a lot of technology and stuff. You see, I can't even operate Zoom too well. It's but that's amazing. I had no idea that 3D, an application or a program had came along enough to where it would allow, pretty much everyday users to create their own
Mhm.
3D worlds basically and visuals like that.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I'm sure there's a learning curve,
A little bit, but like I said, there's tons of great tutorials out there, and the core people do stream on Twitch quite often, so you can catch their streams and see what they're up to and see what the newest games are too.
That's amazing. So we'll definitely be keeping track of what you're doing there because it looks fantastic. It just does. I love it. When you send it over, I'm like, wow, she really is a hard worker. After listening to your projects and stuff and see what you got going on, yeah, she's a hard worker.
Actually, comparing myself to Steve is like the hardest working guy I know in any field. I mean, he is always working on something. So he's the type A, and I'm like the type B slacker. I've got a lot of stuff going on, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, I'll get to it. Don't worry about it.
Oh
It'll
no,
get
you
done someday.
sound like me, but you make it look good though. It's as soon as they accuse you of not doing anything, look at this entire world I've built. What are you talking
That's
about?
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you don't
had
have
10
to.
minutes yesterday. Look what I did.
Yeah, make it look like it was a whole day's worth of work. Don't tell you shouldn't tell people about the core system. I'm kidding.
Now, the
But
more
yeah,
people that use it, the more great stuff they'll put out for us all to benefit from. So I'm
yeah.
a
So hey,
evangelist for core, actually.
there you
So
go. Preach it. Amen. So if you guys are ever interested in doing some project like that, Deborah's gave you the source to
mhm,
go and do it.
mhm.
I love it. And speaking of Steve, you don't have to tell me he's a hard worker because here recently I've been helping them with video editing and video production for their new Kickstarter coming out. And I'm,
Yes.
yeah, I'll share some of that stuff at a later date. They're sort of holding it back until the Kickstarter launches or
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, when you work with Steve and you see all the projects he can throw your way, you got to sit there and say, whoa, he's not only is he sort of coordinating this entire deal, but he's also doing a ton of these projects himself. And that's the reason there's so many projects coming to other people. They're coming straight from him, his artwork and his work. So
Absolutely. And in between all the stuff he's doing with gaming projects, we're also working on finishing the third book in the City of the Gods trilogy. So we're
that's right.
sending chapters back and forth on that from time to time too. So
Yeah. So just project after project. Ugh. I'm
when
lucky
will
to
it
be,
end?
yeah, I'm one of those type of people that I get a project and it really needs to be done. I just got to focus on that project and get it done. Then I can move to the next. When I start going crazy, there'll be 10,000 unfinished products laying around the house. Not products, projects laying around the house. And my wife's like, why are you working on all this stuff and none of it's finished?
Yeah,
So
that's my life, but I'm okay with that. I like to work a little bit on this and a little bit on that and a little bit over here, and
yeah,
eventually it
it'll
all
all
gets
come
done.
together over time. That's what I try to tell her, but she don't believe me. You know, her idea of time's a day or a week. My idea is like a lifetime. It's so it is what it is on that end. So it's but hey, I get plenty of stuff done, and I see that you and Steve do as well. And
We do.
so back to the early days of gaming, because you're my
Okay.
first female, you know, guest on the show. I normally don't like getting into politics, but you said you could
Mhm.
handle anything here.
I can handle
And
anything.
this
What you
isn't really
got?
political, but it's become political in the gaming scene here. But the claim that a lot of people make about the old gaming scene were that females were very underrepresented and that they were sort of ostracized from the community. And I don't really remember that because we were always like hoping females would join. And
Well, I
so
would agree with the underrepresented, but I never ever felt ostracized. And I really don't know of any ladies I know that game that felt that way. Maybe it's a generational thing. I think maybe we had a little more confidence and a little less concern about what people thought back in
hey,
the day.
that's
We
amazing.
us old boomers, we don't care. We'll
That's
do
right.
what we want to do. And I don't know. I never ran into it. And even when I started streaming on Twitch, this was a huge deal. You know, people were always saying, you know, oh, the women are just getting harassed, and you know, they aren't respected as gamers, and people just think they're up there because they're pretty and they want to make tips. And that could be true in some cases.
Sure.
And yes, I had jerks come into my chat room from time to time, you know, with trollish nonsense. But at the same time, I never really felt abused or picked on. It was just part of the world. I don't know. Maybe it's like I said, maybe it's just a confidence thing where I
Yeah.
didn't really care
Yeah, and
if somebody was mean.
I can definitely see the underrepresented part, because we go back and look at older board games or role-playing games and stuff. You know, it was always male characters, basically, you know, as far as artwork and anything. You know, now when it came to the table, anybody could be anything. It's role-playing.
Right.
You know, but when the artwork for the players, it was always the assumption that they would be, at least in Dungeons and Dragons that I can remember. I don't think Tunnels and Trolls actually went that route. I think they pretty much stayed genderless when it came to referring to the player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really remember. It's been a long time since I looked at a first or a second edition TNT book, but it's I know.
And I just remember playing all kinds of characters, male characters, female characters, monster characters. It didn't make it a bit of difference to me. And I never felt like I had to represent myself through my character. So
Right,
I don't know.
that's good role playing. You know,
Yeah.
you're taking on the persona of something that's not you in any form or fashion. So it's that's good role playing, but we see a lot of that nowadays in the modern gaming community. I pretty much shy away from it, but it spills over with social media and things of how they would people were ostracized, females, and they're trying to make it into a racial thing now. And I can't say for all areas who can know what somebody experienced, but I know from our end, we didn't care if you were a purple three-headed alien with 6 arms. If you were willing to sit down and play with us, we would love to have you, because it was hard to find players. You know, where I was from, the nerdy sector, very, very, very under the table, sort of, you know, a secret society of nerds we had. So, so we were always like, yeah, join us. We don't care who you are, what you are. If you're willing to take part in these games and show up and have fun, we want you.
Yeah, that was the huge advantage of being connected with a gaming company, because not only did you have all these coworkers that game 24/7, you had the other 40 customers out in the store that were looking to join a game. So there was never any shortage of finding people to game with.
Yeah, I bet that was amazing. When I was a teenager, I dreamed that we had a game store I could work at, you know, and meet everybody coming in. So nowadays, you know, the nerd culture went sort of mainstream, I guess, or it's popular, you know, to do nerdy things and embrace the nerdness, you know, where it wasn't before. So now I guess it's not hard at all to find players and stuff, but it's harder now to find good players, because now everybody's supposedly a nerd or into video gaming or into tabletop gaming, but you get a whole lot of people that are supposedly all into this stuff, but they have no idea what they're doing or what's going on. So it's, you know, I don't mind teaching or helping beginners out, but when they come to you and it's like, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years, and we sit down at the table and you're like, what are these dice for? And it's like,
Yeah, that's interesting. And I've noticed too, there's been such a decline in solo gaming. Most of the video games now, you need a party, you need your guild, you need to join up with people in a lobby. So one of the things I'm doing with some of my projects is really getting back to that solo fun gaming experience. And unrelated to City of the Gods or Flying Buffalo products, I'm working on some solo gaming modules right now that can be played with some resources that you can put on your cell phone.
wow.
So instead of having to have a booklet that you're flipping through, I'm going to work on some modules that you can use on your phone.
That sounds amazing. I might have to break my policy at the table that I don't allow any screens on my table. Cell phones, I don't want to hear it. But yeah, even when I solo play, because when you work around screens all day, or you're looking at screens all day, when I want to have time for relaxing and enjoyment, I see a screen, I see work.
Well, I'm not a big phone user either. My phone is strictly utilitarian.
Right.
You know, it's like if I have to call 911 or the tow truck, that's what my phone is for. I don't play games on my phone or have a lot of applications. I'm pretty old school that way. And I also think, you know, don't put your whole life This is Auntie Wynn talking to you now. Don't put your whole life on your phone, people, because if somebody steals it, they're going to know everything about you. Don't do
Some
it.
good advice. I don't know. It's I'm not a I use the phones for business and different things, utilitarian processes, but I definitely have to have. I'm not a screen person. I can't stand it for long periods of time, so I take breaks from that. I've even got a 1951 Remington typewriter that I do a lot of my
Oh,
writing
wow.
on, and then I'll draft it over to the screen later. But I don't want to sit on the screen and just stare at it while I'm writing and thinking, you know. So, but that's just my own caveat. But you know, if you come out with some phone apps, you definitely got to come on the show and tell us about them, and we'll give them a spin and a review for sure.
Absolutely.
So that's exciting, and I know there's a few other phone apps that have came out, but none of them have really caught me. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see your effort at it, especially because you come from the old school. Should be good, you know.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. So you do the live streaming, and you said that the solo playability of video games has went down over the years, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. And it's the reason I don't do a lot of modern video gaming.
Mhm.
But on the flip
Main,
side, tabletop gaming, with the pandemic, solitaire gaming has exploded.
that's good to know.
It has really, especially on the role playing game side and everything. There's more products than you can possibly even keep track of coming out, you know, every month for it. So it's that side's exploded. So it's a real good time for you to come with the phone app, I think.
Yeah, because people are going to be sent back to their cubicles soon, if not
Oh
already.
yeah.
So they need
Oh,
something to do on their phone when the boss isn't looking. So,
that's right. And we heard your favorite tabletop games. Hit us with some of your favorite video games from over the years.
oh, I am a huge simulation gamer, PC master race here. I don't do consoles, but my favorite games are things like Planet Coaster, where you build your own amusement park, Farming Simulator series,
My
where you're
son,
building your
oh,
own
he,
farm.
my son's completely nuts about Farming Simulator.
Oh, yeah, I've been playing that since Farming Sim 15. That's actually what
Yeah,
started me
him too.
streaming back in
Oh,
the
really?
day.
Farming
Yeah,
Simulator? Oh, my
Farming
son's gonna
Simulator
go
stream.
nuts. I remember he
Yeah.
gets so much into it. It's almost like a role playing game for him. He'll sit on it for a couple hours, and I'll say, "Hey, it's time to come off the game and get something done." He's like, "Hold on, I'm tired. I've been working all day."
Another one I love is Fishing Planet. I love Hunter Call of the Wild. So
Okay.
most of the like realistic games I like, even Jurassic World Evolution 2, I've just started playing, and that's a lot of fun. And I am looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy, the trailer, which just dropped this week.
Oh yeah,
And
my
that is
wife's a
going to
big
be
Harry
a
Potter fan.
solo game.
Is it? Yeah, my wife's a
Yes.
big Harry Potter fan, so she's all excited.
Yeah, so it looks very, very beautiful. I'm kind of on the fence about buying it because it's not in my wheelhouse. I usually don't play games where you're working through a predetermined story.
Sure.
I like games where you're building your own thing, sandbox games where I can do whatever I want to do. But
Sure.
it just looks so beautiful. I may cave and buy that one.
Yeah, the trailer of it did look fantastic, I have to say. Harry Potter, I could take it or leave it, but that looked amazing. So, and there was it reminded me of another game. I can't remember the name of it. It came out on the PS3. You probably don't know either because you're not a console gamer, but it was very similar where there was like this magic school, but you used the PS moves. You know, they were the motion controllers, and they were your wand,
Oh,
and the different gestures gave you different, you know, spell effects that you had to memorize. That was
interesting.
actually pretty fun. So, but yeah, that's I've got an earpiece out on me, but that's okay. Uh, so video gaming, you know, with the modern scene, you like the Sims and stuff like that. What about the older scene? You know, let's go back to I'm sure you were gaming back in the 80s and early 90s as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah. We started out, my first computer was an Atari 800.
I've got the XE still.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that, I was playing mostly the same games that you would see in the video arcade, Pitfall and the Dragon game and the Lance game, Joust. That's what it was.
Joust, yeah, riding on the ostrich.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
So all of those old school games, Centipede and Galaga. And then we got into PC gaming later on and played a ton of things like Heroes of Might and Magic.
Oh, that was a good one.
Um, what was the other early one? I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
There's no quiz. It's just you got to do like me. I have a lot of trouble with it. It's like memory lane. Let's get those
Exactly.
synapses
Yeah.
firing.
I need to take my memory pills today.
There you go.
But a lot of like space exploration games, I enjoyed those on the early PC.
Sure. My
Things.
was space exploration. Not necessarily space exploration. What was that? Well, I remember the first early one I played was Starflight and Star Control.
Oh
Those were,
yeah,
yeah, those
Starflight.
Starflight was
I played
amazing.
Starflight.
I still don't know a game that really can touch that one. I mean, it's it's 2D graphics and stuff, but that was an amazing game. And then the other one came out, Wing Commander in the
Oh, Wing
90s.
Commander.
Yeah,
Yes.
and remember the third one had Mark Hamill in it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that was an amazing series. So we definitely have that in common.
Oh, there were the Gabriel Knight vampire adventures. I played a bunch of those. And a lot of just battle type games, like medieval battle games and ancient Roman and Greek games, all of whose titles escape me now because I've sold all that software.
Yeah, well, on Atari ST, you would have had access to one of the better ports of Defenders of the Crown or
Oh, I don't
Defender
think
of
I
the
ever had
Crown.
that one.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
know
think I
where.
ever had that.
Oh, that was an excellent one. I don't know what's going on with this earpiece. That's the problem. I got the wire hanging over my beard. You should tell me when I'm moving crazy. But that was an amazing one, and Bard's Tale. I'm trying
Yes,
to think.
Bard's Tale, I remember. And
Yeah,
go way back. Let's talk about Zork, the
Zork. I
old text
remember Zork.
adventures. Yeah.
Yeah, the text adventures, and then I remember the text adventures became really crazy when the MUD started in the early '90s,
Yes.
multi-user dungeons.
Hmm.
So people could just waste hours. I remember you just waste hours writing back and forth.
Yep.
It was, but and I'm sure that well, you like solo, but do you have any experience with like any of the major MMOs like World of Warcraft or anything like that?
No, never played any of those. I
I
was
haven't
never
either.
interested in
So
Warcraft, never interested in League of Legends. Just I don't know. I don't want the extra hassle of getting together with a party online to do a specific thing that they want to do.
right, it's like a
Just
full-time job. You're going to be on
exactly.
this
It's
time.
too much micromanagement. I'm just not into it.
Yeah, I never got into them because there really wasn't a story element anywhere in it. It was
True.
basically we're just going to meet up, we're going to this dungeon or whatever, and we're going to loot it, and then we're
Yeah, we're
going to do
gonna
the same thing somewhere else tomorrow. And it was like,
yeah.
okay, that's sort of fun, but I don't know. I love to have at least some form of a story or a purpose in what we're doing.
Or at least have it be an open world where you're not trapped into doing quest after quest after quest that they assign you. That's one thing I dislike about most of those games.
Right, and there was a in the early '90s. Well, it wasn't the early '90s. I would think around '96. There was a 2D game. I think it was just called Realm.
That
And
sounds familiar.
yeah, and it was a turn-based RPG, and it was just a wide open 2D world. But that was a fantastic one that I remember. But I'm like you nowadays. I don't have time for the MMORPG type stuff anymore.
Exactly. And a lot of times I just want a game that I can drop in for 10 minutes, have some fun, and then go do something else. And a lot
Exactly.
of the simulation games that I play on the PC are like that. I can go in, catch two fish, and then, go cook dinner or something. But
Yeah. Why not? I was thinking back, when you said catch two fish and cook dinner. I was like, she talking about a video game or is she fishing now? But I
yep,
remember you
yep.
said you had the fishing game.
Fishing Planet. Yeah.
Fishing Planet, and that's something I enjoy in real life is fishing. Maybe I'll do a video this summer, take you guys out fishing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, so but it's
And that I love simulation games because they actually teach you about real life things. Because now I know everything about, different kinds of rods and reels and hooks and baits and what kind of fish live where. So I
right.
like learning
That's
stuff.
yeah, and that's an interesting topic, of how much you actually can learn from modern video games because technology's to a point now where everything can be realistically portrayed, you know.
Yes.
So, because take fishing for example, you go back to some of the old fishing games, you were just moving basically a square lure around in the water,
Hmm.
and any fish could strike it if you moved it right. But
Right.
in real fishing and with these simulations, because I've played a few of the different fishing simulations as well, I enjoy them. There was one I played that was based in Japan, and it was just this, the art and the world for it was just beautiful. That was the reason I wanted to play it, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you were doing basically what's that called? Tenkara fishing, where it's
Oh,
basically the
cool.
Japanese fly fishing with the rod, but it was like I don't know if they actually went and filmed these streams like the old full motion video the video games used to be, like we're talking about Wing Commander or whatever, but
Hmm.
it looked ultra realistic, like you were actually, standing by the stream or in the stream with the waterfalls and the birds flying around and stuff. I don't know, I'd sort of zen out with that.
A lot of those games are really relaxing. That's why I enjoy them. Even Hunter Call of the Wild, you can just trek, just walk through the forest. You don't even have to hunt an animal. You can just enjoy the beautiful scenery in that game.
Right, and that's just the thrill of modern gaming. If you A lot of people don't understand, though, they go back and look at gaming from the 80s and they're like, how did you even play this? But to me there's just this charm to it, that because I get to use my imagination still when I play these games.
That's true.
That not everything's going to be, well, some of the first RPG games like Temple of Apshai, you had this giant rule book that wasn't how to play the game. You had to go room by room and read each description in the book that was displayed on the computer screen.
Oh,
Just because,
wow.
yeah, it was. I believe that one came out in '79. I think it was the first commercially available RPG, and it was basically Dungeons and Dragons on the screen, and you can even use your characters from, I believe it might have been first. No, first edition hadn't came out, so it would have been expert set of D&D back in the day. But you could interchange your characters and everything. So, but you got to use your imagination. That's why I love tabletop gaming. There's, a video game's programmed, so you're only going to get what they can give you. We're
Sure.
on the tabletop. It's just wide open. Anything you can imagine is yours. But for whatever reason, the older games, you still got to use your imagination, even if it was just visualizing what they're trying to portray on the screen. But
Well, it's been really fun talking about all the old school stuff. I can only imagine what we're going to see in another 10 years. What will video games be like then?
I think, with the way VR is moving so fast now, because we technically there was VR in the '90s,
Mhm.
if with different things, but it was not actual virtual reality, but it was sort of the rudimentary of what would become virtual reality. And with VR taking off like it has, with Sony working on it, and Oculus and Windows and everybody, I guess Facebook's trying to do it now with this metaverse thing. I have no idea, but I don't want to. I'm not into virtual reality. But I think as this progresses, if we see where we've came from the last 10 years to where we are now, I think we're pretty much going to be into a real life simulation that everything looks and sounds real.
That's going to be so bizarre.
Well, I don't know if you can remember, but I remember in the 80s and 90s, every time, like from the jump from 8-bit computers to 16-bit computers, then the 32-bit computers. You would get this stuff and it looked real to you at the time, even though it might be just, you know, better represented 2D graphics or whatever. But I can remember seeing some of the first person games like Castle Wolfenstein and some of the RPGs and stuff where it's first person view. I was like, wow, this looks like real life. So so I imagine, the next leap is going to remind us of how it used to leap, because we haven't seen any huge leap in like graphic design or computer capability since, I don't know, around 2010 or so. I would say was with the i7 core processors was our last big leap forward of
Mhm.
what it could generate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It will be interesting, that's for sure. And speaking of the metaverse, I have been playing around in one of the metaverse applications called Decentraland. And that's really fun to visit because everything there has the look of like an early 90s video game
Really?
because of the way the avatars look and the things that people are building. So although it's the brand new thing, it sort of has a nostalgic draw to it. And right now, about the only thing that's going on there are big brands like Samsung and Heineken and the Australian Open Tennis League. They're setting up all these little worlds of their own that you can go and visit. And so I've been ducking in there, seeing what they have to offer. And it's going to be really fun to see what the big corporations do there, see how they're going to draw in an audience.
Yeah, so I haven't taken a look at metaverse. It's not really interesting It's interesting to me, but it's not really interesting to me
Mhm.
because I
It's
think
more
that,
interesting to me because I invest in crypto.
right. So that's
So
what I was
look,
saying. If you're investing in this stuff, and there's a lot of people investing in the metaverse itself, I think they
yes.
sell real estate and different ad space and
Hmm.
different thing inside these virtual realities. So I
Yes.
can see the interest to it, and but it is interesting. It's almost like the next phase of the human experience. That you're going to be able to step inside a world that doesn't necessarily physically exist anywhere, but you have just the same amount of social interaction that you do in physical reality. That's very interesting to me. Even from a psychological point of view, that's very interesting to me of where we're going. Sort of scares me though, if you watch any sci-fi dystopian stuff, but it's
I think that's where they draw their inspiration, actually, but we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah, the pod people. But so we're going to call you the metaverse astronaut here on the show
There we
because
go.
yeah,
Oh, I
you're
can do
diving off
that.
into exploring these worlds, so you'll have to keep us updated on what you find.
I will.
And it's I guess we're sort of wrapping up toward the end of the show, and because there's so much stuff I want to talk about with you that I don't want to keep you on 24/7. So
Oh, well, I'll come back another time and we'll
yeah, so
chat some
we're
more.
definitely gonna name you a friend of the show. You're welcome to come back as
Yay.
often as you want. It's been very pleasurable to talk to you, and I've learned a ton that I'm still processing. So I'm sure when you come back, I'll have 1,000 questions for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and again, we appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the audience for sticking with us. I think we made it 30 to 37 subscribers. So yay!
All right.
But we're on the climb. I'm sure Deborah coming on. Some people will come over and say, "Hey, I know her," and they'll
I
come
will
check
share
us
it
out as
around.
well.
We'll see how many people we can get to come visit you.
Okay, so thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you very soon back on here. Maybe we'll get you and Steve on
That would
together.
be fun. That
Yeah,
would be
then we can
fun.
really hear some old stories, or maybe get if we can get Liz on Danforth. Maybe I have this weird dream that we're going to put together a lot of the old Flying Buffalo people into like a big chat room and just hear the stories and the fun times. So that's something to look forward to
They
possibly.
would probably remind me of some old stories I've totally forgotten about by now. So that would be awesome.
Yeah. So like I said, we appreciate you. I can't thank you enough, and I will see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, this is Dev Stalker 5. If you like the Random Encounter Show, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you'll be the first to know when we upload a new episode. Want to support the show? Head over to Questing Table Studio on Facebook. Let us help you bring your table to life with miniature painting services and terrain.